On the day my wife's first love got engaged, she stepped off a rooftop and vanished from my world. I had been preparing for our anniversary, arranging a candlelit feast meant for two. Instead, I sat alone at the table, eating through the silence while tears slipped down my face. And before the salt had even dried on my lips, another blow landed. She had donated half my assets to charity. But it didn't end there. While sorting through her belongings, I discovered a small art studio she'd kept hidden. The moment I opened the door, I felt the air leave my lungs. Every wall was covered with rough, childlike portraits of one man, Makoto, the same boy we once knew in high school. The brushstrokes were clumsy, but the devotion pulsing through them was unmistakable. Each painting a confession she never spoke aloud. I was furious and heartbroken. And then, when I opened my eyes again, I found myself reliving the past, handed a second chance I never asked for. This time, I didn't let her run to him. I locked her in a room with the bully who once tormented her. And hours later, she was pounding on the window, her voice hoarse, desperate. "Darling, don't you want me anymore?" Willow Liu, now an astrophysics professor, had just discovered a new asteroid. A simple interview turned her into a national sensation. People weren't talking about the asteroid. They were talking about her cold, ethereal beauty, her distant, starlit eyes. And when she revealed she'd named the asteroid after the person she loved, the internet exploded. A divine romance, they called it. Everyone wanted to know who this mysterious Wong was. I watched the comments scroll by, the corner of my mouth twitching upward harder than the kickback of a rifle. Then the reporter smiled and asked, "Miss Liu, do you have anything you want to say to your beloved Wong?" Willow paused. Her eyes, dark as a moonless sky, shivered with something she tried to hide. And then she whispered, almost too quietly for the microphone to catch, "Congratulations on your wedding." That one line froze me. Across the room, David nudged George and joked, "Now that's romance. Turning your own anniversary into a second honeymoon." Maybe it was. Watching her gaze soften on screen, I felt heat flood my cheeks. Willow and I had spent 10 years together. I'd watched her transform from a withdrawn, wounded girl into a brilliant, elegant professor. 10 years ago, she transferred schools and sat beside me, pale, fragile, impatient with everything, especially me. Now she was naming celestial bodies after me, her lips curling with warmth whenever she spoke about the discovery. Today was our first wedding anniversary. I'd booked the restaurant where I proposed, bought gifts, planned surprises, waiting like a fool for her to walk through the door. But instead, news of her death arrived. She had jumped from the 18th floor. In her hand was a note. "Death is only return to the universe. One day, billions of years from now, we'll meet again among the stars." I handled the funeral arrangements in a haze, David hovering at my side. Willow had left a will. Everything she owned was to be donated. Strangely, I felt numb. Even watching David grit his teeth, try and be strong for me, almost made me laugh. After the funeral, a lawyer called. "Mr. Wong, there's an art studio under Ms. Liu's name. It wasn't included in the donations. You may want to take care of it." The studio was in the southern suburbs. I unlocked the door and froze. Paintings, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, each one a portrait of Makoto. They were amateurish, shaky, but the emotion behind them was blinding. A decade of longing spilled across every canvas. On the table lay pieces of amber, smooth, polished, each holding a tiny relic, a fruit candy, a dried flower, a broken bracelet, gifts from Makoto, treasures she had preserved like sacred light. And somewhere in a dusty paint box, the wedding ring I gave her, abandoned like something she'd long outgrown. My chest tightened. Breathing felt like trying to swallow stones. I sat down and opened a notebook on her desk, one she had filled with 10 years of unspoken love. Her story began with a piece of fruit candy and a gentle smile from the boy behind her seat. A small kindness to most people. But to a girl drowning in abuse and loneliness, it was sunlight cutting through the clouds. She fell completely and quietly. She wanted to protect that light, to keep it from sinking into her own darkness. Wong. Makoto's Wong. a name she carried like a wound and a prayer. And in the end, it became her farewell. I read every page. I appeared only in scattered lines, dismissive, bored sentences. The new seatmate is nosy, super annoying. We got married. Kinda regret it. But he's rich, so whatever. 10 years of devotion, driving her to work, making sure she ate, shielding her from bullies, carrying her out of burning house when her deranged father tried to kill her, all of it erased. Never a word, never a trace. Makoto's smile was the only thing she ever wrote about with warmth. Each sentence cut into me. I clenched my fists, tried to breathe past the hurt. And that was when the truth swallowed me whole. The air still carried her scent. Light, citrusy, familiar. It twisted my stomach. Some people, I thought, are simply born to destroy everything they touch, unworthy of forgiveness, unworthy of love. With one violent sweep of my arm, the amber pieces she cherished tumbled off the table and shattered against the floor. A woman like that, maybe she should have died a long time ago. I was about to leave when a soft creak sounded at the door. 2 figures stepped inside. It was Sophia, Willow's closest friend, and Makoto himself. Sophia's eyes were swollen, her throat raw from crying. Her voice trembled as she spoke. This place, Willow left it for you. You used to be her only light. And then, almost whispering, back when she was drowning in depression, it was your photo that kept her alive. Makoto stood stiff, stunned into silence, and then let out a long, tired sigh. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes as she continued. Even after she got guaranteed admission to college, she still went to school every single day just to see you. Then her gaze finally caught mine, standing in the shadows behind a shelf. She froze, and then her grief twisted into fury. "What the hell are you doing here?" she spat, storming toward me. She shoved me hard. "Get out! Don't you dare taint the only pure place she had left. If you hadn't clung to her like a damn parasite, she'd still be alive. You drove her to her death." I didn't argue. I didn't justify. I simply found my footing, and my hand moved on instinct. A sharp crack echoed through the studio as my palm met her cheek. "Have you lost your mind?" I shouted. What does any of this have to do with me? Did I force her to date me? Did I force her to marry me? When I confessed, she could have said no. When I proposed, she could have refused. What? Does she have Schrodinger's consent now? If loving someone makes you a stalker who pushed him to suicide, then every couple is a crime scene. My anger boiled over. She lost Makoto because she wanted everything, his love, your pity, and someone else's shoulder to cry on. If she's dead, she walked herself there. Then Makoto's voice slipped through the tension, thin, strained, trembling. She never got the love letter I sent her. Sophia and I went still. I stared at him. What did you just say? Makoto rubbed his face and exhaled. Before the college entrance exams, I sent her a letter, told her everything I felt, but she never replied. A bitter smile stretched across his lips as he lifted his head, eyes dark with something close to resentment. It was you, wasn't it? You were jealous. You threw it away. He locked his gaze onto mine. You made us lose 10 years. And now she's gone. Forever. I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. But Sophia didn't need proof. She lunged, screaming, "You bastard! I'll avenge her." She reached into her bag, pulled out a stun baton, and jammed it into my side before I could react. A violent shock ripped through my body. My muscles seized, my knees buckled, and the floor rushed up to meet me as everything went dark. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't lying on a studio floor. I was holding a textbook, wearing a school uniform, standing in front of the supply room. Inside, a teenage Willow leaned against the wall, quiet, fragile, and so heartbreakingly familiar. A loose strand of hair curled by her ear as she looked up at me with a hint of confusion. Opposite her sat Anna, the school delinquent, chewing gum, eyes sharp with disdain. She smirked when she saw me. Well, Mr. Straight-A here to rescue her? Relax. We're just having a little talk." The weight of the book in my hand felt real, too real. My limbs went cold, and hatred rose like a tide inside me. The book slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a hollow thud. I didn't speak. I simply closed the door and walked away. But behind me, the door burst open. Willow ran past me, her hair brushing my sleeve as she darted to the hallway, a fleeting shadow in the fluorescent light. What's she running for? Anna muttered. I just asked why she didn't sign up for the school event. A cold warning crawled up my spine. I sped up, following her. When I reached the classroom doorway, I saw her standing there, staring silently inside. Makoto sat by the window, making his seatmate laugh, the fading sunlight turning everything gold. Willow watched him with eyes full of tenderness and disbelief, as if she'd stepped into a dream she'd waited her whole life to see. My heart sank. This wasn't the uncertain girl I once knew. This was the calm, graceful woman she had become years later. Willow had come back too. What are you spacing out for? Anna asked as she pushed past her. Class is starting. Don't block the door. I followed my memories and slipped into my old seat. The room was quiet, everyone lost in their work. I flipped open a random workbook, staring at the neat handwriting of a boy I no longer was. I had been given another life. There was no chance in hell I would walk the same path again. My mind cleared. My emotions steadied. Willow clearly remembered everything too. And she didn't want me, not in that life, and especially not in this one. Fine. She could destroy herself if she wanted. I'd be nowhere near her when she finally shattered. Then her voice cut through the air, calm, cool, familiar. George, give me your English notes. I looked up. What? She stood above me, expression cold, detached, like she hadn't even noticed that I was no longer the same boy she once dismissed. Of course she didn't. Her heart was already somewhere else, with someone else. Makoto offered an apologetic smile. Sorry, George. I asked Willow for her notes, but she said yours were better. So here we are. Polite, charming, likable. Too bad that kind of sweetness never worked on me. No, I said flatly. I'm still using them. I wasn't. I just didn't feel like handing them over. Makoto's smile froze, awkward and stiff. Then his desk mate, Sophia, rolled her eyes so hard it was almost theatrical. Seriously, George? You're the class monitor, she snapped. Helping your classmates is literally your job. What's so hard about lending notes? Someone actually wants yours. Take it as a compliment. Her voice shot through the room, loud enough that every head turned. Before I could speak, David slammed his pen down and fired back. Oh, shut up, you manipulative witch. Stop guilt-tripping people. George made those notes himself. Why the hell should he hand them over to freeloaders? You fail your tests, and suddenly that's everyone else's problem? The argument was about to explode when Willow looked at me. Her expression softened, her voice quiet but earnest. George, English is Makoto's weakest subject. If he doesn't improve, he won't qualify for any schools in City C. She didn't finish the thought. But she didn't need to. In our past life, Willow went to university in City C because Makoto was going. A few minutes into this new life, and she was already planning a future with him. And me? I was nothing more than the punchline of a cruel joke. Back then, my job kept me away for months at a time. I wired money home. And in her diary, she wrote those were the happiest days. Because I wasn't there, I stared down at my desk, regret pressing against my ribs like a physical weight. 10 wasted years. Willow mistook my silence for hesitation. Didn't you always want to come over for dinner? She added suddenly. Her lashes lowered. She blinked at me, almost flirtatiously. If you tutor Makoto, I'll agree to have dinner at your place once a month. Her tone made it sound like she was offering me the world, not charity wrapped in arrogance. So even in this life, she couldn't pretend to speak like a normal human being. I leaned back in my chair, met her eyes, and let out a low, incredulous laugh. What kind of insane bargain is that? Are you out of your mind? Or am I? Why is it always me getting the short end of every deal? What am I, your personal doormat? Willow blinked, thrown completely off balance. She opened her mouth to respond, but the homeroom teacher walked in, cutting the tension cleanly in half. The teacher strode in with a thermal mug in hand and announced that registration for the A University guaranteed admission exam had begun. In our last life, Willow got in through that very exam. I didn't apply, but this time, both of us raised our hands. Willow stared at me with a puzzled look, like she couldn't comprehend why I'd dare make a different choice. Makoto let out a low scoff. "George, you're signing up too?" His voice dripped with amusement, mocking, almost gentle, but with an unmistakable edge. "You should have some self-awareness. With your grades, you could get into a decent school if you work hard, but guaranteed admission? Don't waste your time." His eyes slid toward Willow, his meaning painfully obvious. Or, are you trying to get someone's attention? So sure I couldn't do it. In the past life, I didn't take the exam because Willow's family was struggling. I didn't want to compete with her, but she got in a guaranteed spot and still came to school every day just to catch glimpses of Makoto. So I answered calmly, "Whether I get admitted or not, why is that any of your business?" Makoto choked on his words. Willow, however, lit up with anger. "How can you say that? So people with bad grades deserve to be mocked now?" Apologize to Makoto. He was just trying to help. Don't be ungrateful. She scoffed. "And if you're trying to get my attention, you don't need to act like a child." The logic was so twisted it almost felt unreal. I raised my hand toward the teacher. "Sir, I'd like to change seats. There's too much barking around me. It's ruining my concentration." Willow's face flushed red with fury. The teacher looked confused but nodded. After class, I moved to the back row beside Anna, the girl who spent most of her day napping, daydreaming, or reading smuggled romance novels. Quiet, peaceful, perfect. As I organized my things, I caught a glimpse of Makoto brushing Willow's hair with gentle fingertips. She leaned back slightly, letting her long black hair spill across his desk like a silk curtain. I rolled my eyes. In our past life, she wouldn't even let me touch her on our wedding night. I had to shower for an hour before she'd allow me to lie in the same bed. Me, disgusting. Yet she thought her precious crush was some kind of spotless saint. Without Willow breathing down my neck, the rest of the day passed surprisingly smoothly. After school, the homeroom teacher asked me to stay and help grade some papers. By the time I got home, dusk had already settled over the neighborhood, soft and quiet. A few middle-aged women were out walking their dogs, chatting casually under the streetlights. The world felt calmer, almost peaceful. People were whispering in the hallway. One of them said, "Did you hear? That psycho from Building 3 got taken to the mental hospital. His daughter called the cops. Said he beat her half to death." Another added, "I saw her. Poor girl looked so sweet. How could he do that to her?" My steps slowed. I lived in Building 3, and that psycho was Willow's father. In our previous life, I'd seen the same thing. Him exploding over nothing, Willow hiding bruises under long sleeves. I'd tried to help back then, even went to the police once, but she told me to mind my own business. It seemed this time she finally stopped enduring it. A little ahead, I saw her, curled up on a bench, her forehead bleeding, her face ghost pale under the flickering streetlight. Wind tugged at her hair, making her look even smaller, even more breakable. When she looked up, her eyes met mine, lost, frightened, desperate. For a split second, something in my chest tightened, but I looked away, expressionless, and kept walking. "George," she whispered, her voice trembling. For a moment she hesitated. Then her eyes iced over again. "What are you doing here? What was wrong with this girl?" I didn't want to get dragged into her chaos again. I picked up my pace. Behind me, she let out a cold laugh. "Don't think I don't see what you're doing," she called out, trying to play the hero again. "You just love showing up when people are at their lowest, don't you? Think that makes you special?" She stood, voice shaking with anger. "You really think that makes me like you? Newsflash, it's the opposite. I hate that self-righteous, fake-ass act of yours the most." I stopped. Her words hit harder than she knew, and a hot wave of anger burned through me. So that's how she saw me. My care, my feelings, everything I'd done for her. In her eyes, it was all arrogance, charity, hypocrisy. 10 years I loved this girl. For this? You're wrong, I said, jaw tight. I'm not here to play savior. I stepped toward her, grabbed her by the arm, and slapped her. Hard. The sound cracked through the empty street. I'm here to kick you while you're down. I shot her one last glare and walked away, leaving her frozen, hand pressed to her cheek, too stunned to speak. And the truth was, ever since that slap, I've been feeling lighter, sleeping better, breathing easier. At school, we avoided each other like strangers. Sometimes I'd hear about her in Makoto, how she copied notes for him, cooked for him every morning, paid for his birthday party when he was broke, how she skipped class to take care of him when he got injured. Honestly, it was funny. Miss I'm So Independent had turned herself into someone else's simp. Guess, Rayall, love hits different. Back then, I didn't love Willow just because she was beautiful. I thought she was different from the shallow girls, smart, composed, clear-eyed. But seeing her now, that image shattered. She wasn't strong. She wasn't wise. She was reckless, blind, and maybe a little determined to ruin herself. Cutting her off was the best thing I'd done. David, tired of all the drama, moved seats and joined me in the back. Soon Anna joined us too, studying like a person possessed. She'd jump 100 points in the next exam. Her parents were so thrilled they invited us over for dinner, and even tried to adopt me as their godson. Anna shut that down real quick. I just scratched my head and fed me to their golden retriever, who got so excited it did 2 backflips. See? Even a dog knows gratitude. Some people don't. With the big exam coming, Willow faded from my world, until the day I saw her again outside the P.E. storage room. I'd gone to grab basketballs. She stood at the door, eyes red, shoulders shaking. Inside, I heard Makoto's voice. His friend snickered. Makoto, you're actually eating what she made? With her psycho dad? What if she's carrying some virus? Makoto scoffed. That's not a virus. That's genetics. Hereditary. But whatever. I'm just playing around. His friend burst out laughing. She even worked at a KTV to help you with money. She's like a goddess to everyone else. But she's your simp. Makoto's voice turned colder. You should learn from me. Girls like her are cheap. The nicer you are, the less it works. He paused. And don't let her hear any of this. I'm not done playing with her yet. Outside, Willow's hand shook around the lunchbox she'd made for him. Her heart was breaking right in front of me. Hurts, doesn't it? Watching the prince you worship crumble into dust. Honestly, she had it coming. The moment I heard what Makoto said, something clicked. A guy like him? He probably never wrote that love letter in our past life. He must have just used that lie to make me the scapegoat. And this time, I wasn't about to get dragged into their ridiculous drama again. I turned to leave, but Willow grabbed my sleeve. Let go, I said flatly. She bit her lip, eyes burning with a hatred I'd never seen from her before. George, she trembled. You're the one who spread the news about my dad, aren't you? Are you happy now? Is this what love means to you? Sabotaging my relationship with him just so you can have me? I didn't bother arguing. I kicked her away. Hard. 10 years of living under the same roof. Maybe we didn't have love, but I thought we had something. A bit of trust. A bit of respect. But no. She could twist anything into the ugliest version possible. I stared down at her coldly. Willow, are you paranoid? Or just completely delusional? You told everyone about your dad yourself on the first day of school. And me? Like you? What fantasy world are you living in? I scoffed. You know what? Makoto was right. Girls like you are trash. Good for messing around. Never for taking seriously. What I didn't expect was silence. Willow didn't snap back. Didn't scream. Didn't throw a single insult. It was like something inside her had snapped. She slid down the wall slowly, as though her body had forgotten how to hold itself up, and sat on the floor with her head bowed. Watching her crumble stirred something dark in me, a twisted satisfaction, that same cold, hollow feeling I'd had when I opened that art studio in our last life and saw all those paintings of Makoto. Funny how karma circles back. Her hair hung messily over her face, her eyes blank, her expression empty. She looked like a piece of fine jade that had shattered, beautiful, but ruined, lonelier than anything I'd ever seen. I watched her with a sick kind of curiosity. A part of me even wanted to take a picture, so that whenever I felt low, I could look at it and remind myself why I'd walked away. And then she laughed. A small chuckle at first, then a trembling one. And suddenly tears spilled down her cheeks, mixing with that laughter in a way that looked painfully close to madness. Had she finally lost it? Through broken sobs, I heard her whisper, "It was my fault. I shouldn't have." And right then, I knew. Willow had finally seen the truth. Maybe she'd sensed Makoto's cruelty long ago, but she clung to the fantasy anyway. 10 years of devotion, 10 years of delusion. She couldn't let it go, not when she'd built her entire world on it. So when the truth shattered in her face, she panicked, blamed me, made me the villain in her story because accepting reality would have destroyed her. I let out a cold laugh. In every lifetime, she was the same, never taking responsibility, always finding someone else to blame. I didn't want to watch her unravel any further. So I turned away and left her there, laughing, crying, lost in her own broken illusions. I wasn't as foolish as Willow. This second chance at life wasn't going to be wasted. I wasn't going to destroy myself for someone who never mattered. I convinced my parents to invest early in a few rising industries. I helped David pull his grades up, because in our last life, not getting into his dream university haunted him. This time, I would make sure he got his chance. Everything was finally aligning. I heard Willow and Makoto had a huge fight afterward, but that was none of my concern. What did bother me was this. She stopped chasing him and started studying. Great. Now she wanted to compete with me? She'd taken this exam in the last life. She probably remembered half the questions. If I wanted to stay ahead, I'd have to work twice as hard. David and Anna noticed my shift immediately, but they didn't say a word. They just let me grind. On exam day, I walked out feeling strangely light. The sun was warm, stretching across the pavement like a lazy cat basking in the afternoon glow. The test went smoothly. For the first time in ages, I could finally breathe. Anna and David were waiting by the gate. Anna waved, hair catching the wind, looking so bright and full of life it almost hurt to look at her. She handed me a bottle of water, her usual fierceness replaced by something softer. I smiled. Come on, dinner's on me. After we ate, we spent the afternoon at the amusement park, screaming, laughing, running around like kids. I hadn't felt that free since the moment I returned to this life. It was as if the weight I'd been carrying melted off. For the first time, I felt alive, truly alive. In the days that followed, I turned into the designated errand boy of the group. Every day, I fetched food for David and Anna. This morning, David made a dramatic speech about craving the beef hand-pulled noodles from the South Gate. So during lunch break, I dragged myself over there, but just as I stepped out the gate, I brushed past a familiar thug. I heard him bragging, "Yeah, we handled that girl already. Doubt she'll talk back now. And hey, once you're done with her, don't forget to let us bros have a turn." He climbed into a van with his buddies, swaggering like he owned the world. An icy chill crawled down my spine. And then it hit me. I knew that voice. That guy was one of Makoto's street buddies. Curiosity tugged at me, so I followed the sound down a narrow alley. And there, beside the trash bins, lay Willow, bruised, broken. So she was the one they took care of. Well done, boys. A-plus work. Sometimes I wondered if I was cursed. How else could I always end up arriving right when she hit rock bottom, just in time to watch it happen? I looked down at her and casually lifted my leg, ready to step right over her. But then, her hand shot out and grabbed my pant leg. Still alive. What a disappointment. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused, caught between dream and nightmare. She whispered, trembling, "George, it's you again saving me." I exhaled sharply. "Let go." Her fingers were filthy, cold, clinging to me like I was her last lifeline. Disgusted, I bent down and pried them off, one stubborn finger at a time. Her lashes quivered. She looked up at me with this soft, longing expression, Something desperate, something pathetic. Then she whispered, "George, have you played hard to get enough? I'm willing to give you a chance now. Back then I misjudged people, but now I know you were the only one who truly cared. Let's make up, okay?" For a second, I froze. She didn't know. She hadn't realized I was reborn too. All this time, she thought I was still the old George, the one who would break himself in half just to please her. She thought my silence, my distance, my coldness were all games to win her back. How unbelievably clueless could someone be? My patience snapped. Without hesitation, I stood up and stepped right onto the hand she reached out with. She gasped, pain ripping through her voice, sweat beading across her forehead. And as I slowly ground my heel into her fingers, I said, almost gently, "Willow, you got a second chance at life. And this is what you chose?" Her pupils shrank. Her face drained of color. She stuttered, "George, wait. You're also—" I didn't bother to let her finish. I lifted my foot, turned away, and walked off. That night, like always, I stayed behind to help the homeroom teacher grade papers. By the time I headed home, the sky had opened up. Fine. Cold rain drifted down in a hazy curtain, carrying that heavy, salty scent that clings to the air and crawls beneath your skin. My chest tightened. My thoughts wouldn't settle. Just as I reached my building, I noticed a thin silhouette standing outside my window. Ground floor. No umbrella. Just standing there, still as a ghost. As I moved closer, the figure sharpened into someone painfully familiar. Willow. Of course. What a nuisance. Through the rain, I saw the raw sorrow in her eyes, thick enough to suffocate a person. When she saw me, she stepped forward instinctively, but the disgust on my face hit her like a wall. She stopped. Her expression cracked. "George, I'm sorry." Rain hammered down on her, washing away whatever dignity she had left. After all this time, an apology, and I felt nothing. I sighed. Noted. Now get lost. But she didn't move. She just stood there, eyes red, voice trembling. "When I stood on that rooftop, I felt so hopeless," she whispered. "I thought I'd lost my true love forever. And when I jumped, the only person I thought of was you. Makoto was just an obsession I couldn't let go of. George, the person I really love is you." I laughed, cold and sharp. "Me? Then why was the first thing you did after being reborn chasing after Makoto?" I stepped closer, voice steady, blade-like. "I planned surprises for your birthday. I bought you gifts. I cared. And what did you do? You cooked breakfast for him every day. You nursed him when he was sick. Tell me, what did you ever do for me?" Her face went pale, inch by inch. And honestly, I shook my head. "You're just pathetic." She closed her eyes like the words physically struck her. "George, I know you hate me, but we were together for 10 years. Please give me one more chance. Let's start over, okay?" I tried to breathe, tried to calm down, but the rage from my past life, the grief I had buried so deep, finally erupted. "Give you a chance?" I snapped. "You think you deserve one?" Smack. My hand flew across her face. Her head whipped to the side. Through clenched teeth, I whispered, "My biggest regret was wasting 10 years on you." My voice twisted into something darker. "Even in death, you played me. Donated everything you had. Except it wasn't even your money. It was mine. You used my money to build yourself a noble legacy, to make people blame me for your suicide." Her shoulders shook. Her breath hitched. But I wasn't finished. "Tell me, Willow, when you jumped off that building, did it ever cross your mind to give me a chance? To give our child a chance?" Her head jerked up, eyes wide. "Child? What child?" She stumbled forward, panic breaking through every word. Then something clicked, and she froze, completely still. I let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, 1 month along. The coroner told me. Even you probably didn't know." My voice dropped to a whisper, quieter but sharper than any knife. "What kind of life could we have had? I wouldn't know. Because in the end, even I was killed by the soulmate she died for and the best friend she trusted more than me. Was it true? I didn't know. I only said it to break her. And it worked. Willow finally collapsed, crouching down on the pavement, burying her face in her hands as she sobbed like the world had ended. I stepped around her without a second glance and walked inside. Through the window, I watched her fall apart in the rain, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to satisfaction. Good. Let her feel even a fraction of what she made me feel. Willow disappeared, took a leave of absence. Meanwhile, I got accepted into a university on guaranteed admission. 2 victories in one breath. David wanted to show off in front of Willow, rub in her face, but she was nowhere to be found. So he dumped all that energy into studying instead, and shot up the rankings like his life depended on it. The school that once felt out of reach suddenly became nothing but a backup for him. As for me, with my spot secured, I barely went to school. I only stopped by to drop materials off for David and Anna. Anna told me she wanted to get into a university with me. Cute ambition. But university wasn't a place she got into on a whim. Still, her determination deserved something. So I handed her a full set of 5 to 3 workbooks. She puffed her cheeks at me. George. Without even looking up, I tossed another 10 sets of practice exams onto her desk. What? I asked. Not enough. She huffed. Only 10? Add more. That's nowhere near enough. I had no words. The next time Willow's name appeared, it was on the news. She had stabbed Makoto and Sophia 8 times each. Not enough to kill them, but enough to send both straight to the ICU. The police hunted for Willow for 3 days. Nothing. No trace. Dead or alive. The school was horrified. How could someone so gentle do something so brutal? How could she snap like that? Only I wasn't surprised. I had always known she was capable of it. When the police questioned her teachers and classmates, I was on the list too. After returning home from the station, I pulled out my key, and the world exploded. Whack! A blow from behind. Everything went black. When I woke up, I was tied to a chair on the rooftop of an abandoned building. Wind roared across the concrete, sweeping dead leaves around my feet. And there she was, Willow, sitting at the edge of the rooftop in a white gown, legs swinging gently over the darkness below. Calm, too calm. I tried to loosen the ropes, and she turned. Then she lit the candles on the table beside her, one, then another. That's when I noticed the spread. A full table of my favorite dishes. She sat down beside me, half her face warmed by candlelight, half swallowed by shadow. It didn't look romantic. It looked wrong. What the hell are you doing? I asked. She smiled softly, too softly, and in her eyes, something fragile teetered on the edge. Honey, did you forget? She whispered. We never celebrated our anniversary. Anniversary. Right. She was completely gone. I stared at her, my voice flat. Enough, Willow. This ends now. You can't hide forever. She didn't react. Instead, she gently scooped soup into a bowl and brought it toward me like we were at some cozy dinner date. I made your favorite, she said quietly. Pork rib soup. Come on, just try a little. I couldn't take the act anymore. Willow, I said coldly, did you lose your memory? Want me to remind you? Her hand froze. On that anniversary of ours, you borrowed a camcorder so you could confess your love to Makoto on video. I leaned forward, my voice low. Then you jumped off the 18th floor for him. You said you were excited to meet him again, in some dreamland among the stars and sea. I tilted my head. Ring any bells? Her eyes turned bright red, and then she suddenly threw herself into my arms, pressing her cheek against my chest like none of it mattered. Let's just enjoy today, she whispered. Just today. No more fighting. The old me would have melted instantly. One cute tone from her, and I'd crumble, but that boy was dead. All I felt now was disgust. I kicked the table. The candles toppled. The wine spilled across the dishes, dark red soaking through her dress like blood. She didn't flinch, didn't scream, just stare at me with those heavy, bottomless eyes, like she was memorizing every second. Time is running out, husband, she said softly. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Time? A cold unease crept down my spine. She saw the tension in my face and shook her head gently. "I'm not going to do anything drastic," she whispered. "Yeah, right." Then sirens cut through the night. I exhaled slowly. The GPS the police planted on me had worked. Coming home alone had been part of the plan to draw her out. She leaned in and kissed my forehead, soft, slow, like a goodbye she'd rehearsed 1,000 times. "Honey, how do we end up like this?" she murmured. Please, like she didn't know. If she hadn't been so obsessed with Makoto, maybe we would have had a family, a real one. But life doesn't bend backward for broken love. Thank God for that. A blinding spotlight suddenly flooded the rooftop. Red laser dots bloomed across Willow's chest. She stood up, gave me one last hesitant look, and slowly backed toward the edge. Our eyes met. There was no fear in hers, only peace. And that's when the chill ran through me. She knew it was a trap, and she still wasn't planning to run. At the very edge, she stopped, turned, and gave me a soft, fragile smile, gentle, apologetic, already fading. A smile that felt like goodbye. She looked at me, eyes trembling, and whispered, "Honey, I'll redeem myself with my own life." Redeem? With her life? Like hell she would. My voice tore out before I could stop it. "Willow, don't you dare. Why should she get the easy way out? Why should she get release? She didn't deserve peace. She didn't deserve closure. She killed herself. She killed our child. She destroyed me from the inside out, rotting in prison, living every day with the consequences of what she'd done. That was what she deserved. Not escape with a single backward step. But she just smiled sadly and whispered, "I love you, George." The wind swept across the rooftop, carrying her voice away, ruffling her hair like it was trying to hold her back. And then she leaned back. For a split second, the present snapped, and I was dragged into a memory. That humid summer afternoon in our old school. The fan buzzed overhead. The classroom walls were yellowed and cracked. And she stood there, cheeks warmed by embarrassment, ears tinged red, eyes bright as she asked me in that soft voice, "George, do you like me?" After the college entrance exam, life pulled all of us in different directions. David performed well enough to land himself a spot at S University in the next city. We still met up during long holidays, grabbed food, argued about stupid things, laughed the way we always used to. As for Anna, she missed the cutoff for university by a few dozen points. She could have gone to a perfectly good school, but she chose to repeat the year instead. I shipped her the entire new edition of the 3 prep series. She was so furious she didn't text me back for 3 days. Sophia and Makoto never even sat for the exam. Their injuries were too severe. In the end, both slipped into vegetative states, frozen in time, suspended between life and death. College came like a fresh wind, sweeping everything old away. It was busy, intense, messy, but fulfilling in a way my previous life never had the chance to be. I tried everything I never dared before. Clubs, events, hobbies, random projects. Was I more successful this time around? Not really, but I was happy. And happiness, real, simple happiness, is one of the rarest and most magical abilities a person can gain. Even though my past life had been full of pain, regret, and things I could barely think about without my chest tightening, none of it stopped me from falling in love with the world again. Second year, start of a new semester. As a student council officer, I stood under the dazzling September sunlight, helping welcome the incoming freshmen. A bunch of guys tried their luck with a cute new girl, asking for her WeChat. With their best cool senior, poses. She just laughed politely and turned them all down. I slapped one guy's shoulder with a grin. "Amateurs. Watch and learn." He rolled his eyes, but I didn't notice, because in that moment, something in the crowd shifted. Through the sea of new faces, a girl dragging a suitcase stepped into the light. Her eyes swept across the courtyard, sharp and searching. Then they locked onto mine. Anna. The sunlight caught her hair. The breeze tugged at her sleeves, and for the first time since last year, she didn't look like a girl chasing someone else's shadow. She looked like someone stepping into her own story. I raised my hand casually and called out, "Hey, freshman." I leaned closer with a teasing smile. Want to add me on WeChat? My chubby orange cat can do backflips. You'll love him.